Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?
Hey, everyone in, let's go. Huddle up on 3. 1, 2, 3, huddle up.
No one, and I mean no one, comes into our house and pushes us around. This is your game now, gentlemen.
Russian 3, dropping 8. Uliangalale steps up, loads and throws. It's caught. It's pitched backwards, up in the air. It's on the ground, still in Clemson's hands. And now it is down. It is over. And the Irish have knocked off number 1 Clemson.
Fans on their feet. Rally towels are being waved. Brad Lidge stretches. The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Eller for the draw. And as the puck drops, the words that DC fans have been waiting to hear since 1974, the Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions.
And now, welcome everyone to the Huddle Up Podcast.
We're not going to be fucking sucked this year. We're the Stanley Cup champions. Yeah!
Welcome, everyone, to the Huddle Up Podcast. Happy New Year. It is the first show of 2021, Tuesday night, January the 5th. We are glad that you are joining us. If you are here with us, welcome back. Welcome for the first time. If it is your first time checking out the show, we appreciate it. Make sure you give it a like and a share if you're watching us live. Subscribe to us on all of our podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Follow us on social media, Huddle Up Pod on Instagram, Huddle Up Podcast on Facebook and on Twitter. We have Sean in here with us. Sean, Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year. It's a big one. Hockey's coming. I'm excited. Football's over for me.
It is over
all
for
respect,
me as well.
And we're looking forward. We got baseball coming. We got hockey on the way.
Right.
LaSalle's playing basketball.
There you go.
We got a lot going on.
Sixers look like one of the better teams in the NBA so far.
Sixers look for real. They've looked for real before, so we're not going to count any chickens. They're looking real.
But they've never had me as a fan before. So, and given my track record with sports teams, you
should probably get off the ship. Yeah,
I should probably just leave now because it usually doesn't end well. Doesn't end well for me and for my teams, of course. But we'll talk about that. We will start in the NFL. But again, make sure if you're following along with us live, leave us some comments and we will get to them. Questions if you have them. But Sean, let's start in Philadelphia. I feel like we've done this before from time to time on this show this season and with the Philadelphia Eagles. And we'll start with this past Sunday night. Sunday afternoon, we saw the New York Giants defeat the Dallas Cowboys, and then needing the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Washington football team to give the Giants the leg in. Kind of a back and forth game. I did not expect it to be as close as it was, but Philly had kind of came to play, and then all of a sudden it looked like they didn't come to play anymore, Sean. So We've seen reactions from multiple sides on the situation, whether or not the Eagles tanked, whether or not they intentionally took their foot off the gas, if it was bad form, if it was on brand. I mean, there's been a lot of hot takes. I know Giants fans and Giants players and personnel and coaches have really obvious of course taken have taken issue with what the Eagles did, but for me, I look at it this way. First off, I'll address the New York Giants. Don't go 6-10. Like, if you
a good way to win a division is to do better than 6-10.
You won 6 games out of 16, and you are getting angry at the Eagles for not winning in week 17. Regardless of what the Eagles did, the Giants screwed themselves. Not screwed themselves, but it's just the fact of the matter that you put yourself in a bad situation when you go in 6-10. And I know, as a Cowboys fan, would I have been a little bit upset if I would have seen what the Eagles do what they did? If the Cowboys were the ones that won Sunday afternoon, sure, I'd probably be a little bit upset. But again, the Cowboys only won 6 games, so there's only so much anger that you're entitled to have at that point, because you didn't even win half of your games. So I don't feel any sort of sympathy for the New York Giants. So if you want to address the Giants first, Sean, and then we'll get to the Eagles portion of what happened Sunday night.
Well, yeah, I think at any point, whether you're 6-10, whether you're 10-6, I think if you put yourself in a position where you need someone else to lose, teams, whether you want to call it tanking, if they were tanking, if they were trying to lose, if it was intentional, whatever. The point is a lot of teams do that, right? And it's not. I don't think the Eagles were calling plays to lose, but there were definitely some questionable things, and then we'll talk about it in a minute. But for the Giants to come out and attack, you've had your opportunities. Even here in the last few weeks, when it was very obvious that one of these, we all knew one of them had to go, and the Giants all of a sudden found themselves in a situation, and even had a couple games in the last few weeks where they couldn't pull it together, couldn't find ways to win. And it's not like they were being asked to win their 12th, 13th, and 14th game to do this. You're being asked to win games without even getting to 500. So, I said that right away. I'm like, if people are going to get upset about this from a Giants standpoint, you should probably try winning more than 6 games. That's pretty much where I would stand as far as my message to Giants fans. It's like, cry a river, enjoy your draft pick, which is worse than ours, and just kind of move forward. You have pieces in place. If you felt like you were going to do anything in the playoffs, then win next year and do it then.
Yeah, and let's be honest here. We'll get to picks later, but we've been saying for a while that the common belief, and I know anybody can pull an upset at any time, but the common belief is whoever kind of wins this NFC East is probably not going to go very far in the postseason. You're a Giants team that has been sporadic at best and mediocre at most this entire season.
Right, and with Jalen Hurts in play, I think. I see a Caps jersey comment here.
He was a big fan of the Portland Pirates. Yeah, they were the Pirates affiliate right before the Caps affiliated with Hershey. So I'm looking forward to seeing these reverse retros, not only the Caps ones, but league wide, a pretty solid setup by the entire league. Looking forward to seeing those this season.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking at the teams coming out, like as far as the NFC East goes, I think with Jalen Hurts coming into play, if the Eagles could have won another game or two after that big Saints win, at least, because the big thing is like no one would expect them to win, and the big one is Vegas. Like, you're just not going to see a lot of people betting on the NFC East team. Maybe you should. You're probably going to get great odds, but the Eagles probably would have been the one that would have at least been an interesting play from a Vegas standpoint, just because there would have been a lot of question marks with Hurts, and if he'd have been hot, could they have been? But everyone else was pretty much playing with the parts that they've been playing with. So it wasn't anything new or exciting out of the East. And the team that comes out of there, as far as a storyline from a Redskins perspective, is probably the best storyline that the NFL could sell. just because of Alex Smith making the comeback and making it essentially a complete comeback, and now getting to play in host a NFL playoff game less than 2 years, right? It's less than 2 years since he was hurt. So, for someone who was never going to play. So congrats to him. I thought that was phenomenal. But to turn it to the Eagles a little bit, obviously they've gotten a lot of flack. And I watched the game, and you can talk about Sudfeld all you want. I mean, Hurts was having a down game with his success he had been having. They still weren't finding ways to win. They had just lost 2 in a row, at least one of which against an opponent that they probably should have won if you're going to try to make a splash. So I didn't think things were going very well. Do I think Sudfeld's the answer? No. I did see some people commenting, and I couldn't find the article. I saw some folks saying that Peterson had alluded ahead of the game to the fact that Sudfeld would probably see reps. And if he did indeed say that, I think, it's not surprising it was for a whole quarter. I don't know. Maybe you're assessing what you have in him, especially if you're going to ship Wentz. You want to find out, do you have a 2? There's a lot of reasons to bring Sudfeld in. And they're like, well, not to win a game. It's like, well, the Eagles winning the game was fairly inconsequential from a franchise standpoint.
Right.
For an integrity of the game, everything else, you got to remember the Eagles. This isn't the Eagles' last game in the history of the franchise, first of all. So there's a whole future ahead, and you're considering now shipping away a guy that you paid to be your franchise quarterback and handing it to a kid that's played 3 or 4 games. So you may want to just kind of see what your insurance policy looks like against a team that actually needs to win. A lot of times in this scenario, when a team's tanking their last game, you're playing against a team that's also tanking their game. So you're kind of seeing backups and things. And the Redskins are a legitimate pass rush. And we learned pretty much what we knew about Nate Sudfeld. He is who we thought he was. But, the Eagles were still in position. The big question mark for me was, and maybe it's for the same reason, trying things out, but when they had a chance to tie the game with a field goal, and it was not a short yardage situation, they decided to go for it. On the Redskins side of the field for what would have been a fairly short field goal to tie the game. That's where it felt funny to me. But, my take on it's pretty simple. What we said with the Giants kind of covered it, and the fact that nobody is the difference obviously being that Pittsburgh has a game to prepare for, but the Browns, Miami Dolphins needed the Browns to lose this week, and the Steelers sat a lot of players. So whether they have a game or whatever the next week, from a league standpoint and integrity of the game or integrity of the league or letting a team back in, especially a division rival, it was questionable to me. Ben has to be pretty hurt. I don't think that would be a situation where you would want a Cleveland team sneaking in, especially since now you have to play him again. But nobody brought that up. And I think playing in primetime hurt him too.
It was
like
stop with this integrity of the game stuff that people keep talking about.
Whatever they're saying. It's a team,
the NFL has sold its soul to money lines, to fantasy football, to all sorts of gambling, to this and that. This notion of the integrity of the game is absolutely laughable to me. You have officials that are making some of the most abysmal calls I've ever seen without any punishment. You're seeing inconsistency week after week in how things are called, when things are called, who they're called for, depending on even this year, home crowd versus not. And there's hardly any crowds in most of these stadiums. This integrity of the game notion is so damn laughable from people, and for people to act like this is the first time, again, that like in week 17, that a team has taken the fall for a better draft pick. It's ridiculous. How many weeks? I don't feel like the Jets got ripped as bad as this a few weeks ago when they literally stopped playing defense.
Well, and I was going to bring up the Jets. I feel like you're also only a few weeks removed, and we talked about it on the show when the Jets won a game, and all of a sudden the Jaguars getting the first pick was very realistic, and the league and the fans and the people in New York were livid because the Jets tried to win a game and succeeded in winning a game. And then to win a second one, I listened to ESPN radio, Fox radio, the local radio down here, and people were bashing the Jets for not tanking. And so for me to say, like, well, you got Trevor, and you're an Eagles team that's going to hand it to a rookie, you're going to think you're either going to, want protection for him. You're going to want somebody that can defend a pass because you haven't had a healthy secondary in half a season. Or you're going to want to get him some weapons. And either way, the best way to do that with a hot draft coming up, you got a lot of teams ahead of you that are looking quarterback, which if you don't need means you may wind up, if you have that 6th pick, an opportunity to take the best non-quarterback available. You fall from 6 to 10.
Trade that pick to somebody who needs that quarterback, and
that quarterback falls. That pick becomes very valuable. Maybe a guy like Fields falls out of the top 5, and you got teams clamoring to climb up and get him. A team like a Minnesota or somebody that's got a quarterback that's maybe questionable, maybe a little old, maybe a New Orleans Saints that isn't sure what they're doing. You might be able to, that's maybe looking to shop a Michael Thomas. Those kind of situations. You don't know what's going to happen. So having the best commodity available in a draft, I don't see any reason if there was a team to tank, because it was going to be a much larger fall. The Jets weren't going to fall very far with a win. No. The Eagles with a win would have fallen 4, 5, 6 spots. Nobody really did the math on it. I'm like, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for the franchise. And so, Peterson was already pretty much promised a chance to come back next year. Wentz has agreed to kind of help shop himself, and that probably means renegotiating a deal that makes it more trade friendly. Obviously he said he's taken a week off to think about his future, and I assume that means he's going to go. He wants to make it look like he thought about it hard. But there's a market for him. There's a lot of teams that aren't going to get into those top few spots and get a quarterback. So, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that we got rid of him.
New Orleans.
You're going to have a lot of middle and top tier teams that still, teams like New England, teams like New Orleans.
Needs a quarterback.
Even Indianapolis, who Phillip Rivers is not a spring chicken by any means. They've done well with him, and Brissett's shown that he can be good in packages. And he did. I don't think Brissett did that poorly for him before they went out and,
No, but if Frank Reich is sitting there looking at Carson Wentz, who he knows well,
and he's had success with.
And he's had success with him. Why wouldn't, especially, when I hear, and to
also
close
Nick
on
Foles
what
may end up on the market just in case.
I'm just angry that the Eagles did on Sunday what the Cowboys should have done for the last 5 weeks. That's what I'm mad about.
Yeah,
but that's enough.
I don't think Peterson's the kind of guy to intentionally tank. Like I said, is he put his team in a position to? But you take out Jalen Hurts, but I mean they were already sitting like 8 deep. They were like guys that
I saw the list of inactives last week.
Unreal.
I was like, I don't like. I mean, obviously,
it was like all the wide receivers. You were down to Fulgham and Ward.
I wanted the Cowboys to win to put themselves in the position, but I didn't have much hope looking at the Eagles inactive list that the Cowboys, even if they had won, were going to get into.
I mean, you're looking at a guy that there was a large chunk of that game where J.C. Arcega-Whiteside was featured in a prominent wide receiver role, and that tells you what kind of situation they had put them in. And if you're still Jalen Hurts in there and you're going,
it sucks.
Exactly. And what doesn't suck is the Redskins pass rush and
football team.
Chase Young was having himself a day, and yes, the Redskins, the football team, whatever they are. I'm sure I'll get it right by next year.
Possibly when they have a different name. Maybe.
When they have a different name, and I can call them a name instead of just the football team. It feels too. I mean, I guess I could just say Washington, but
you can say weird. Washington now, Michael. So you don't have to keep stumbling over the old name.
It's ridiculous. But when you have that pass rush that's having a pretty good day, you've already had a couple linemen out. You may also be thinking, Jalen Hurts is taking a pounding here, and if we're going to move on to him, I don't want him to get hurt in this game.
Yeah.
Although strangely they kept him in to go for it on 4th down. It's a little strange there, but yeah, it's just a lot of reasons not to. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are blowing it up to be.
And it's Joe Judge makes this.
I just wish the Browns had missed the playoffs, because that would have been the story, no matter what.
Right.
The Eagles did. That would have been the story. But the Eagles getting flexed into primetime, I think, is what really hurt them. If they'd have done that at 1 o'clock, I don't think anybody would have.
The reason they did it is because the NFC East is going to get them more ratings than the Steelers Browns. Plain and simple.
Yeah, and I think
the NFL's selling its soul out for money.
But if they done it at 1 o'clock, I don't think anybody notices.
No, because the
would have gotten lost
Browns
in the mix.
getting in at 11 o'clock would have been a bigger story. The hot takes are just stupid.
Stupid idiot.
And people need to get over it. But obviously, real quick, we'll touch on, we saw the post game, Jason Kelsey and Zach Ertz and Carson Wentz, spending extra time together before they left the field. Obviously, Wentz likely gone. We named a couple of those places, but Zach Ertz and Jason Kelsey, but by all accounts, could be elsewhere next season. So a huge portion. Now I know, of course, Wentz was hurt that year, but a huge portion of the heart of that Super Bowl winning team is likely to be in other cities next year.
Yeah, and you're gonna have guys like Vinny Curry and some other fellas. There's a few that are free agents that they're gonna have to just let walk. You're gonna hang on to Fletcher Cox simply because he's the best player on your team. Probably period. Arguably one of the 10 or 20 best in the NFL. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to when the league finds out what ticket sales and things like that are going to look like, and are people going to crowds when they set a cap number officially. I think you're going to have a better idea. The Eagles were planning on being a bit over the cap already and having to make some moves. And so with the whole COVID thing and the cap shrinking now, it really puts the Eagles in a bit of a bind. So there's a lot of guys that you're going to see go. I would like to see Wentz try to Ertz try to restructure, find a way to get on the team. I think he wants to play here. I don't know that it's going to work if you're still going to pay Goddard. I feel you made it through most of the season. Goddard looked pretty much like the player that Ertz has been in the past. But you also are going to still have holes at wide receiver, even if you draft one. Alshon Jeffrey, they save a ton of money by cutting him. Deshaun Jackson, same situation. Arcega-Whiteside is a failed project that hasn't seen targets in over a month and a half. So I don't really – it's very questionable. Travis Fulgham kind of crashed back to earth. I think he's going to have a roster spot, but in all honesty, beyond a fill-in fourth, fifth, kind of desperation guy, I don't see him being the featured guy going forward. So, you still have holes at the wide receiver spot. I think that's a legitimate draft pick spot. I think if you sit where you are and the receiver from Alabama were to fall to you, I think there's a good chance that's a scenario based on the number of receivers they're going to have going. But I could also see him just sticking to the O-line. There's a lot of question marks going forward for the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, there's only so much room to fall down. You can only really climb your way back up, at this point. So it's a shame. I would like to see Kelsey back. I think he's still playing at a high level. The other two, one's made kind of a mockery of his position and has made it very evident he doesn't want to be here. The other is the opposite. So, I'd like to see Ertz work. I'm not sure I do without a huge pay cut. But maybe Kelsey can get something done. But it is a shame. It's sad to see all these things happen, but it's the way of the league now.
You look at the Washington Capitals roster. There's a lot of big pieces in the Stanley Cup. Braden Holtby is in Vancouver now, wearing number 46 or something like that.
It's just the cap numbers and the contracts and the way contracts are built. It's it makes for some good parity because those contracts, as they get bigger, they get an opportunity to go to a smaller market that maybe has the cap room to eat it. Whereas, the big cities and the big markets are going to – it's so much easier to win on a quarterback on a rookie deal because you can put pieces around him. And it just seems like once you pay him, things start to fall apart. So, you may see that in Kansas City here in a few years, as the other contracts start to build around Patrick Mahomes. You're going to have to make some choices, much like Seattle did with Russell Wilson and some of those pieces. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the league unfolds, and I think we'll obviously get to the picks here shortly, but plenty of good football left for the year, and fortunately for us, our teams aren't a part of it because I think it would have been embarrassing.
Our teams are not the ones that are going to get embarrassed this weekend. Before we get to the picks, we start, of course, the NFL playoffs this weekend, and I want to go down. Remember, 7 teams in each conference this year in the NFL playoffs. So let's start in the AFC. We'll go top to bottom. Pretenders or contenders? If you want to elaborate on maybe part of why you think this team might or might not be one, you can. We'll start, of course, with the number 1 seed in the AFC, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, 14-2. They won the AFC West. I don't think I have much debate here. The Kansas City Chiefs are contenders in the AFC.
Kansas City Chiefs at this point, and we kind of did our power rankings a few weeks ago to kind of see where we thought teams were shaking out, and I had the Chiefs as a fairly distant number 1 in the NFL as an entirety. I think they're still there. Obviously, didn't come to play this week, wound up losing another game, but for all intents and purposes, you're looking at a 1-loss team. I think they're definitely contenders, probably the contender, the one that everybody's gunning for. And I'll share the stat now. I was going to sneak it in at the end of the show. I shared it on social media earlier. If the Chiefs were to win this their divisional game in 2 weeks, I saw a stat that Andy Reid would be the first AFC coach to host 3 consecutive AFC championship games. It's only been done once before in league history. In the NFC, it was the Philadelphia Eagles under head coach Andy Reid. Was the only coach in the history of the NFL to host 3 consecutive championship games. He could be the second as well in a different decade with a different team.
Crazy.
Be pretty baffling. Different conference, different decade, different team.
Yeah, and let's be honest, a completely different NFL as well.
And he's just he led the charge. I think people are going to credit a lot of coaches for the charge into a passing first league. And you look at what a lot of teams are doing now. Andy Reid with Westbrook and a lot of those pieces in Philadelphia really kind of led the charge. So keep charging, Big Red. I'm pulling for you.
There you go. All right, then we go to the 13-3 Buffalo Bills, the AFC East champions. I say contender. They were a team that up until, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I still didn't totally buy in on. But the last month of the season, which, for a lot of people is kind of they feel like it's the make or break time. You can be great in September, but where are you at in December and January? The Buffalo Bills have absolutely gotten not only stayed the same, but I think they've gotten better. So definite contenders, the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I think if you'd asked me about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I probably would have had them in the pretender pile. I just thought the defense wasn't finding their rhythm, and there was a lot of holes to be had on that side of the ball. Allen was faltering. They didn't decide whether they were giving it to Zach Moss. There just were a lot of pieces, beyond Stephon Diggs, who was doing really well. It just didn't look like anything else was working. And, you now all of a sudden you have, usually it's a, when they say the hottest team is the most dangerous, usually that's a wild card team that's kind of made a charge and snuck in. I think the scary thing for the AFC is that hottest team in the NFL right now is a 2 seed. And I think if there was a team that has a chance in the AFC to really, in my opinion, the best chance to unseed Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, which would be in that title game in Kansas City, it would be that Buffalo Bills team. I think they're playing about as good as they can play.
Yeah, I agree with Tyler here. Buffalo's
a scary team. Scary indeed.
Tanner's ready. He's ready for the Lightning to begin their Stanley Cup quest. Yeah, we will.
You mean Tampa Bay won the Stanley Cup? I didn't.
You didn't hear about that, Sean?
We got to heard something on the radio down here in Tampa.
We'll be giving our NHL season predictions next week as the puck drops.
Literally every commercial break, something about defending Stanley Cup champions.
You got to figure that they they got to get ready for Tampa Bay, but we'll talk about them here in a second. Let's go
blast through these.
To the number 3 seed, 12-4 Pittsburgh Steelers, AFC North champions. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say pretender. This team has not been good all year. They've limped through victories. They've lost their best players on defense. I don't care how good that offense is. The defense isn't good enough. Steelers are pretenders.
Yeah, I think this is a team that could they flip a switch and become contenders, I suppose, if resting Ben gets him healthy and has him anywhere close to the Ben that we've come to know. I think they have a shot. But if that defense isn't healthy, they've shown me that when they get into shootouts, they kind of run out of tricks. So I've got them in my pretender pile as well. They were kind of on the fence for me, but I'm just not seeing a lot of things working for them. The running game's not getting going. Obviously, if Connor gets healthy, that's going to help. But I just with the other teams that are there, unfortunately for them, I think, they were in a situation where playing the starters going into the playoffs would have been beneficial. I see Steelers are the most overrated team, definite pretenders there from Tyler. So, I'm with you, Tyler. I just think that they were a team that really would have liked to have been healthy, because I think having another game of reps to maybe get hot going in would have been very beneficial. Now you have them sitting there questioning things, trying to get healthy. And, I think they're one of those higher seeds that are going to be worried going here into this first weekend.
All right, then we go to the 4 seed, the 11-5 Tennessee Titans. They won the AFC South by limping to a victory over a team far worse than them this past week. And it's been the story of the year. I've been saying it all the time. I'm still going pretender on the Tennessee Titans. I don't think this team is as good as they were a year ago.
I don't think they've been playing as good a football as a year ago. I'm going to stick on the other side, though. I have this as kind of a fence team as well. I think they're on the other side than the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Titans are contenders, not strong contenders, but anytime Derrick Henry can touch the ball, which, by the way, he's pretty good.
He's okay. Derrick, yeah, he's all right.
Comes into the last week of the season at 235 yards shy of 2,000, and by the way, just rushes for 250 like it's nothing.
I think he just hit 3,000 about 10 minutes.
He's still running. Like, it's still, but I think it's actually, like, you look at it as kind of a down one. I think this last one was kind of a promising one for them because unlike a year ago, I don't think they would have won this game. I think that, they're not a team that likes to win shootouts, but they found themselves against a red-hot Houston offense while their defense was struggling to get the pieces together and find an answer for Deshaun Watson. And they found a way to score points. That way primarily was Derrick Henry, but they're one of the few teams with that luxury of being able to run when you're still trying to score points. I think they're contenders. Do I see them unseating the Chiefs 9 times out of 10? No, but if you give them that one, I think they got a shot.
Then we go to the first wild card team, the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens. I have the Ravens as contenders. I think they are playing their best football of the season, unlike last year, where they came in here where they had already peaked and they had already started the downturn. I think they're on the upswing. Ever since Lamar came back from the COVID list, he's been playing a lot better, and I think that team plays better when they aren't expected to. So I like the Ravens. I think they're contenders.
All right, we're obviously top of the wild card. You'd expect to be on the fence. I'm going to take the other side on this one. I'm going to take the pretenders. I will agree they've gotten hot. I think they're getting hot at the right time. I just question how hot it is. I don't know that it's Lamar Jackson. I think a lot of it has to do with finally getting to give the ball to J.K. Dobbins. I think clinging to what's his name? Not Andrews. I've lost it. But they had their go-to running back to start the season.
Mark Ingram.
Ingram, not Andrews, for crying out loud.
It was the tight end.
Yeah, I was just nowhere close. Anyway, Mark Ingram finally just got real old. And they had to kind of pick and choose. And I think a lot of people thought it was going to go to Edwards. And I think Dobbins it shows some flashes. And they've been able to run the ball. And when you're able to run the ball without Lamar Jackson, it's going to open up a lot of holes for Lamar Jackson, both in the pass and running game. So are they scary? Yeah. Could I see them becoming contenders here after a good first round? Absolutely. But where I have them right now, I feel it might be too little too late. And I think the path's going to be a little too hard for them. And I'm going to have them on the pretender side.
11-5 Cleveland Browns. First time in the postseason since George W. Bush was in office. I don't know that I would have had them in contenders, but especially given now you're not going to have your head coach. You're going to be missing some players. Just an unfortunate thing. A bunch of guys on the COVID list for this week. I got to put him in pretenders. Good for you for getting in. I think you're building something there, but not this year.
Yeah, no. You're gonna find you would have had to really impress me for me to put Baker Mayfield on that side of the fence for me. I think this team is an absolute pretender. The defense has played well at times. Offense has looked brilliant at times, but they're too few and far between, and rarely do they match up, even when everybody's healthy. I do feel the Brown I got to give a shout out to is Joel Bitonio, offensive guard. He's been in the league since 2014, played 79 games, started.
No idea who that is.
Of course you don't. No one knows offensive linemen. But this is a guy that started all 79 games of his career. He's been a Pro Bowler 3 times. Came in 2014 and has been through the whole abysmal stretch of the Cleveland Browns and still managed to be a Pro Bowler. finally makes the playoffs, catches COVID, will not be able to play in their playoff game here this weekend against Pittsburgh. So I feel bad for Joel Bitonio. Not the situation you want to see. Unfortunately, it's the way of the year this year, but that might be the most Cleveland headline for the Browns going into the week. But yeah, not even. I don't think it's realistic. Do I think they can beat the Steelers? Maybe, but I don't think pushing forward. I don't see them doing it.
All right, then we close out the AFC. The 11-5 Indianapolis Colts. Maybe if they keep handing the ball to Jonathan Taylor, maybe they could be. Again, I think they're a team that's too hot and cold. And let's be honest, Phillip Rivers, when you need him the most, is not the guy to rely on. Pretenders.
See, I have the Colts on the other side. We're going to disagree again here in the middle of the pack. I'm going with definite contenders. I think the defense is strong enough. Obviously, the run defense has been weak over the course of the year. It has looked better here at the end, but their pass rush is good. Secondary looks good. And you're right. As a team, they haven't been able to get entirely hot in a big streak. But that running back, Taylor, he's gotten hot, and you're coming into the time of the year where you're going to need to be able to move the ball on the ground, especially with an older quarterback. You want to keep it out of his hands as much as possible. I think the Colts put up enough points. T.Y. Hilton's looking as good as he has all year. Somehow, I don't know how that works. Maybe it was just suck until you're healthy and then put it together. But yeah, you got a handful of tight ends they like, and I think they're definitely contenders. Probably right around the realm of the Titans. It's kind of fitting. They had very similar records.
All right, then we move to the NFC. You have the 13-3 Green Bay Packers. They are the bye in the NFC and NFC North champions. Aaron Rodgers is maybe playing the we'll revisit our preseason predictions when we actually get to like Super Bowl time. Yeah. But I could not have been more wrong about this year's Green Bay Packers. I said they were going to stink, and I said they were going to have Aaron Rodgers on the trade block by the point of the season. So I could not have been more wrong about them. A.A. Ron playing some of the best football of his career. A.A. Ron is also running really well.
Yeah, he is.
And that Devontae Adams kid is pretty good at catching a football.
Pretty impressive.
Absolute contenders, without any doubt.
Yeah, Devontae Adams averaging just over 1.1 touchdowns per game over the course of a season that he didn't play in a handful of them. So
ridiculous.
I don't know. I think I said back when we made that kind of power rankings that Green Bay was probably the only team that was a close two. I think Buffalo's crept closer, but I think if you're going with your second, it's fitting that the Chiefs and the Packers hung on to their buys because I think those are the two kind of class organizations right now. Gives you that really cool Super Bowl I rematch that everybody kind of wanted to happen in their like one of the anniversary years, but we'll take it now. I think it'd be a pretty entertaining ball game. Yeah, I think if it kind of stinks for Josh Allen to put up an MVP caliber season the same year that Aaron Rodgers has a chance after getting snubbed a couple of times. So it's going to be a close ballot, but go Pack, go, definite contenders.
All right, then we look at the New Orleans Saints, 12-4, won the NFC South this year. I'm not 100% sold on this team. A lot of questions on the health of Drew Brees and where do you go if he gets hurt again. I'll put them in contender, but like just barely.
Like right over the fence. I'm with you on hit or miss. I think now
I can't call them a pretender because they are a really good football team, but
they have a good defense. The defense has looked more suspect of late. Some of that may have to do with the offense having to punt a few more times, not having quite the array of weapons. But you still have a Drew Brees and a Drew Brees that claims that he may retire here at the end of the year. So I wouldn't bet against him. If I was putting my money on the line, I'm going to pick a game that he's not playing in because I'm going to want to bet against him, and I can't. So you still have some weapons in Kamara. The receiving core is depleted. I mean, obviously having Michael Thomas would be a huge push to definitely make them contenders. I have them on the pretender side of that fence. I just feel with, you still have Taysom Hill coming in at times, and it's like, well, if Breeze does go down, are we going to give it back to Hill and be predictable? Are we going to give Jason or Jameis a chance? I just feel like the depth isn't there. So if anything goes wrong, I don't know that they can recover from it. And because of that, I'm going to go pretenders.
Then we go to the 12-4 NFC West champions, Seattle Seahawks. I have these guys just absolutely pegged as pretenders. I just, there's been nothing from that team that has showed me any sort of consistency on either side of the ball to make me believe that they're good. Their hopes rest on Russell Wilson, which, I mean, he's obviously a great player, but I mean, when you're struggling to put up points against some of these hapless opponents over the last couple weeks of the regular season, they didn't sell me back in October. You're definitely not selling me in January. Definite pretenders for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the offense, and you know, you can blame some of the defensive woes at times, but the defense has looked better in the second half of the season, and it's the offense that seems to be costing him some games. And I don't know if Russell Wilson's broken. I don't know if it's a broken spirit, broken body, broken mind. Somebody's got to fix Russell Wilson because his throws are off. The timing's not there. DK Metcalf has disappeared off the face of the planet, and you know, I think teams have keyed in on him, and it's kind of exposing a little bit of Tyler Lockett. He had a big game here going into the playoffs, so maybe that's good for him. But anytime I get to say anything about Pete Carroll being a pretender, because we know he is, Pete, I know you're a big listener, and I know this is probably Billboard material, but you're pretenders, Pete. Pretenders. Barely pretenders. You're like fakers. Suck it, Pete.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, fuck you, buddy.
Then we go to the team that just won the NFC East, the 7-9 Washington football team. Look, I had my out there prediction a few weeks back that Alex Smith would lead this team to a playoff and a playoff victory. Do I think they can beat Tampa Bay this weekend? I do, kind of, maybe. Something's building in Washington, but this ain't the year. They are pretenders.
Yeah, it's really hard to put them on the contender side. If the end goal was winning one playoff game, I would say they're contenders based primarily on their opponent. Tampa's gotten really hot, but it's been against three pretty low-end teams, Falcons twice and the Lions. So there's a lot of hype right now. Antonio Brown and the offense and the clicking, and it's going great. And Mike Evans setting records despite getting hurt. I just feel like, yes, it looks like things are clicking, and from a confidence standpoint, that's great for Tampa. But I think the Redskins have a chance to win primarily because the Bucs have struggled this year when teams can get to Tom Brady. And the one spot where the Redskins are beyond contenders is in the pass rush and the defensive line. So if they can get to Tom and they can disrupt things, they can absolutely win a game. But for a whole playoff run, definite pretenders.
Then we go to those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 11-5, the first wild card team. I'm going to put them as contenders. They have looked good. Yeah, I mean, it has been against inferior opponents, but Antonio Brown is heating up. Mike Evans heating up. Chris Godwin heating up. The defense has looked better. And, I mean, you have the advantage of the fact that you are playing a team whose offense can make mistakes. So while the Washington football team can disrupt the Tampa Bay offense, I think the Tampa Bay defense can disrupt this Washington offense as well. If you can shut down Terry McLaurin, they've proven to be fairly one-dimensional. And then when you get beyond that, I mean, you look at the rest of the field, besides Green Bay, I think it's wide open. So, but I have the and it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. They are contenders.
Yeah, Tom helps a lot. Like you said, heating up, obviously, due to injury and illness. Mike Evans probably unavailable here to start the playoff run. Would probably be looking at a championship game return. But, as good as Washington is at the pass rush, they're a top 10 pass rushing team. A few spots ahead of them are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tremendous pass rush defensive front. The secondary has really come together for them. And like you said, the offense is clicking. It seems when one guy goes down, another one steps up. And I think the big weapon going into this playoffs is, as much as Antonio Brown looks hot, a big part of that is that Chris Godwin is playing about as good as he has since entering the NFL. I'd say definite contenders. And like you said, some of that has to do with the playing field in front of them. But, fortunately for them, they get to travel. They get to travel to Washington. If they'd had to draw like a Green Bay this week, where it's going to be like 0 degrees, I think it's a whole different ball game for them. Not being a strong running team, that would be my big concern with Tampa, is that they are not a strong running team. You have your Rojo, your strongest runner, has an injured hand coming into the playoffs. He's going to be favoring one hand more than the other. In the cold weather, teams are going to be trying to hit the sore hand to force fumbles. I think you're going to see some mistakes out of Rojo, and they may try to keep it out of his hands. But definite contenders. We'll see how much of a contender, but it's hard to really question a team with that high of a ranked offense and defense going into the playoffs.
Sure. Then we will go to the 10-6 Los Angeles Rams. Short and sweet. I think these are pretenders. I don't know the health status of Jared Goff. I don't think it's going to matter either way. This defense has fallen off. I just don't buy into them at all.
Contenders. I think I was talking about to my man Jake, who I was watching the game with Sunday night, and I was trying to get him. I was like, obviously, we know which teams are kind of your favorites to win the Super Bowl. I was like, find me those teams 4 to 8 that if you were going to go bet on a long shot to win the Super Bowl right now, which ones are you doing? And I kept throwing the Rams in the list because when you get to the bottom half of both conferences, there's not a lot of them there. I think the Rams are a complete team when they're playing as well. They have the defensive weapons there. They are able to neutralize top wideouts with Jalen Ramsey, and the secondary plays real well. And I think you're going to see better defensive performance come playoff time when you're against less trickery and wild card type offenses. You're going to be able to prepare for what you're going to see. It's going to come down to that offense. And I think Akers looks like he's going to be healthy, and they're going to have their running game back. So whether it's Goff or not here for the first one, I think they have a very winnable first-round game. And if you can get hot and healthy going into the second round, I got them definitely on the contender side.
And then we go to the 8-8 Chicago Bears, the number 7 seed pretenders. Sorry. I got nothing to believe that they are going to contend. I mean, you're going with Trubisky or Nick Foles. I'm sorry. Pretenders.
Yeah, Basher's like, no way I can put a team with Baker Mayfield at the helm in the contender side. I can't do it with Mitch Trubisky either. He had a chance to kind of show me something against Green Bay this weekend. Couldn't do it. You're going to see defenses just as good, if not that good, before you even get to a game in Green Bay. I got to go pretenders here. This is a sham of a shell of a team.
It certainly is. All right, Sean, we are going to pause here and take our break here from our sponsor, and we will come back. We will predict this weekend's super wild card weekend of games, and then predict the college football playoff national championship as well. Stick with us. Huddle Up Live and GSC Sports.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis on all things sports. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, subscribe to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports, and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop. Welcome back, Huddle Up Podcast. We are live again. You can check us out. Check out the home network, NGSC Sports, at ngscsports.com. Make sure you are subscribed to our show on all podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music. And put it this way, folks: if you find a place where you can't find our podcast, tell me, and I will make sure that we get on there, because I'm pretty sure we're on all of them. We are on YouTube as well. Make sure you're following us on social media. Huddle Up Pod on Instagram, Huddle Up Podcast on Facebook and on Twitter. So we are glad to once again be with you in the new year, and we are looking forward. The NFL playoffs start this weekend. It almost seems impossible to think that we're at playoff time, but in the same time, it feels like it's this whole relevance of time is just
we made it.
We did make it. So congratulations to the NFL and to all these leagues that have made it to postseason play, championship play, all of that. We'll talk about the college football playoff, both the semifinal games and the national championship coming up on Monday. But let's start here, Sean. Against the spread this past week, and I went 0-4 in the National Football League, 31-32 overall for the regular season. You went 2-2 for 34-29 overall in the regular season. Now, do we want to reset or do we want to go through the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a whole different ball game. And we can go. I mean, there's still NFL games. You want a chance to kind of take down the regular season champ. We can make a run with that.
Yeah, like it's on the record now that you beat me in the regular season. So we'll continue because we did continue the college through the playoffs. So we'll continue the NFL.
Sounds good.
As well, but 6 games this weekend. Of course, Chiefs and Packers are off. We start on Saturday at 1:00 on CBS. It is the Indianapolis Colts at the Buffalo Bills, who are a 6.5-point home favorite in this one. 52 is your over/under line on this game. I think the Bills are just playing too good right now. They're going to have fans. I think 6,500 is the number I saw. So fans.
Well, those are the ones inside the stadium.
Well, sure, but for the first time this year, the Buffalo Bills are going to have some of the Bills Mafia in the building. They're going to want to put on a show. So I still think when you put the game on the line, Phillip Rivers has proven himself time and time again just to not be able to get the job done. I like the Bills not only to win. I think they're going to cover the 6.5. I'm going to go over because I think the Bills are going to score points, but the Colts are going to have to as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game's going to be more interesting than people think it is. I think the Colts have found themselves in games where they needed to keep up with. Phillip Rivers has done a pretty good job of playing shootout, and Frank Reich gets very creative. I think there's a chance that they kind of upset him, that maybe this whole Bills are finally favorites. Maybe Buffalo doesn't know how to play as the favorite going into the playoffs. Been probably 30 years since that's happened. So I do see a way that Indianapolis does. I feel the 7-point spread is tempting for me. But I'm going to take Buffalo here too. I think Bills Mafia. I think if you're trying to find a city to knock off a bank and get away with it, I think Buffalo this weekend during the game is probably a great place to try. I don't think anyone in that town is going to be anywhere that doesn't involve a television, and no one's going to leave it. So if you can get that right around the end of the first quarter, just try to knock off a bank. I think they'll just let the sirens ring. So feel free to test that out, and if you do, send me a wad.
Again, we don't endorse it. We're just
saying if you pull it off. It's still a terrible idea. I'm not telling anybody to rob banks for real, but I think everybody in Buffalo is going to be real hyped. I think, like you said, the team's going to be hyped, and I like them to cover. I do like this game to go over, though. I think the shootout happens, so I'll take the over.
All right, then we go to 4:40 on Saturday afternoon. The Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks a 4.5-point home favorite here. 42.5 is your over/under. This one is on Fox. I don't like either of this team. This might be the worst playoff game of the entire season. Both these teams stink. I'm definitely going under. And just because you still have no idea what the status on Jared Goff is going to be, I'm going to give the edge to the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks cover that 4.5, but this game is going to be absolute dog shit. I hate it.
It sucks. Hey, Rams are going to wear a new uniform combination for the playoff game. Maybe that'll help. I don't know.
Did they announce that? What's the combination?
Let's see. Looks like white pants with a yellow stripe, and then the blue unis. They still have the two-tone numbers, but it looks very reminiscent of the Greatest Show on Turf, kind of blue and yellow. They're going with that, but the white pants is what they're going with. They wish they'd gone with a yellow pant, circa Kurt Warner God, I hate that Kurt Warner. Anyway, I'm the only one person in America that hates Kurt Warner, by the way, and we can get into that another time. Yeah, everybody loves Kurt Warner. Everybody loves the story, the bag, the grocery story. Great, awesome. Then you got to the NFL,
so
and you ruined my Christmas.
It's the bone jersey with the blue pant.
Oh, that's what they're going with. They're going bone and blue. They just showed a stupid picture with the article that I had up. They showed a picture completely unrelated.
Yeah, I just pulled up their Twitter. It's the bone jersey, which those bone uniforms are awful.
It stinks.
But yeah,
well, good. It'll distract them. Maybe Seattle will try the reverse and they'll wear those neon green ones.
So yeah, oh god,
they're worse.
Probably the only jersey worse than the bones is the neon green. Seahawks.
Just despise it.
My wife loves the neon green. I hate it. It is awful. It
looks like somebody has to work like next to a busy highway and like needs to like be seen.
Like just stop it. Like the color rush, we know is a bad idea. They don't do it anymore. Just retire them already.
Just retire those jerseys. You don't need that.
Seattle, well, they can, I guess, because the NFL still has that stupid helmet rule, but
can't do the old one.
Give me them throwbacks, the Rick Meyer throwbacks.
You give me the silver helmet. I'm going the opposite way on this. I feel I'm going to take the gamble that Jared Goff is playing. I feel he's going to find every way to do it. They are getting Cooper Kupp back and Michael Brockers. Both will be back this weekend, as well as Andrew Whitworth, the offensive lineman. Good chance to play. So we're not going to know the starting quarterback probably until game day. But I think I saw, from what I saw of the Rams this weekend, I don't know that the fall off is a lot. I think it gives McVay a chance to be more creative and find ways to get the ball out quicker and lean on the run game, which is what they should be doing anyway. So it may even help their chances some. I think Seattle's just kind of broken. Something's not working. And, when I have an opportunity to pick against Pete Carroll with a team that I've kind of been hyping up all year, this would be 2 out of 3. This is the bully game. I'm going to take the Rams, and I'm going to take the under.
Don't get me wrong. I hope Pete Carroll loses. I just don't think it happens. Then we go to Sunday at 8 or Saturday at 8:15 Eastern time. This one on the NBC networks. The Buccaneers, they're an 8.5-point road favorite at the Washington football team. 45.5 is your over/under on this one. I think Washington might cover this number. I think the Buccaneers win this game. Like I said, I think Tom and company are playing well, but I think the better competition in this game is going to keep that score lower than 8.5. 8.5 feels like a really big number in a playoff game. We'll get to a bigger one on Sunday, but Washington covers. I'm going to go over because I feel like I think Tampa Bay's offense is clicking well, so Alex Smith and company going to have to try to keep up.
What'd you say the over-under number is?
I have it here at 45.5.
Well, I'm looking at Washington's track record here over the second half, especially under Alex Smith, and they've kind of played against some good teams. And I know we've said the Steelers are pretenders, but they're good enough, and they kind of came at an early point in that comeback for Alex Smith. And but even losses to Seattle and some of the other playoff teams they've played, they've been close and they've been low scoring. I feel like the defense has really come to play and the pass rush has come to play in those games. I think you're pretty spot on with everything you said here. I think there's a lot of scenarios. It's probably about 50-50 whether the Buccaneers start to click and this game gets really out of hand. But I'm going to lean on the other way. I think Alex Smith's going to come in possessed. Now remind you, a possessed Alex Smith is not a root 'em, toot 'em, shoot 'em thing. But what he's going to do is he's going to come in and he's going to control a game and he's going to keep the offense on the field and keep Tom off as long as he can. And I think he's going to do his best with Gibson running the ball, who's looking healthy finally. I think they just try to keep that defense as fresh as they can, and if they can do that, they have a chance to keep it close. And so I'm going to take the Redskins to cover. I think there's a chance they win this game, but I'm going to take them to keep it close. I think this game's going to be lower scoring than people expect. That number's real low, though, and I think they want you to go over. So I'm just going to take the under. I think it's going to be real low. It's going to be something around a kind of 24-10, 24-13, maybe 21-17, somewhere in that range. So I'll take the cover and the under.
Then we go to Sunday. We start 1 o'clock on ABC and the ESPN network of channels. I think they're going to go with those like full coverage things like they've been doing with the college football playoffs. The Ravens, 3.5-point road favorite at the Tennessee Titans. 55 is your over under. This one at 1:05 Eastern time. I like the Ravens here. Like I said, I don't have a lot of confidence in this Titans team. They surprised the Ravens a year ago, and now the roles are kind of reversed. The Ravens are the team that is coming into the wild card. Titans are kind of riding high, win the division, stuff like that. So and again, I think John Harbaugh and this Ravens team, I do think they play better when they are the underdog and they're peaking at the right time. So I like the Ravens to cover, win this football game. I go over because the Titans defense outright stinks. Like they just aren't good. The Ravens defense can be suspect at times. So I think there's going to be a lot of offense in this game.
Well, this is definitely a high-scoring game, and it's definitely going to go over. But I think I'm on the other side. I think Tennessee's going to kind of take this one pretty handedly. I think you can run on Baltimore most days, and if not, I think we haven't seen as much of it this year as I would have expected. But in playoff time, play action passes can be the difference in games, and I think you're going to see Tannehill do a lot more of that. And they have weapons on the outside. I said this weekend looking at Corey Davis. If you tell me one guy in the NFL that when I look at his size, his speed, and his hands and still try to figure out how this guy's not a star in this league, Corey Davis has got to be the guy. The guy looks like a giant out there, runs past people. I don't know where the fall off is. I don't know if he just doesn't have breakaway speed. I still can't figure it out. But he's a big man. You got A.J. Brown on the other side. Jonnu Smith finally has been on the field for a few games in a row. So I like Tennessee, and I like Derrick Henry. Did I mention he's real good?
I think we touched on that, but yeah, he's pretty good. He's
pretty good. Second Tennessee Titan in the 2,000-yard club, passing CJ2K. I wish I would have had ridiculous. I wish I would have had this one on my fantasy team like I did the first one. Would have helped me a ton. But yeah, I'm going to go Tennessee. I'm going to take the over. So we are on opposite sides of this one. Nash Vegas.
Then we go to the Bears at the New Orleans Saints, 9.5-point home favorite on this one. 47.5 is your over under. 440 on CBS, Amazon Prime, and a special first time ever coverage on Nickelodeon where they're going to have some like kid centric graphics, a different broadcast team. Are they
going to slime Mitch Trubisky?
I hope so. By
the way, if you haven't noticed, I pronounce his name differently every time I say it.
Trubisky. But I'm going to check out that broadcast because I find it pretty interesting and innovative, kind of tailoring a broadcast towards kids. We've never seen that kind of thing before, so I'll check it out. All that said, I got the Saints plus. The Bears are just not very good at all. They got into the playoffs because I think other teams lost. I mean, they had a game where they had to show up in Green Bay or against Green Bay.
Just remember, if we were running on last year's system, they wouldn't be in.
Correct. This, the Colts and the Bears would not have been in under the old playoff system. The Bears stink. The Saints are going to win this game. I'm not totally sold on them, but they're going to do it. They're going to cover. I'm going to go under just because at 46.5. I mean,
you're asking the Bears to put up some points.
Right, exactly. I don't think they can do it, especially against the Saints defense.
Yeah, that number is interesting. I feel like Chicago's going to put some points, and I think some of that is you can run the ball on New Orleans. They're not going to be able to for most. Like it's going to get out of hand, and they're going to have to stop running as much. But David Montgomery's been pretty solid hot. I'm with you on the Saints here. The spread would normally scare me, but like you said, the Bears just. If it was Nick Foles in the playoffs, maybe I believe a little bit more. But I have no reason to buy this scenario. I'm going to take the Saints to cover. I'm going to take the over because I think Saints score enough and the Bears score just enough to push it into the 50-point realm. And this is it was going to be the Rams. We're Goff to be healthy for sure. This is my signed, sealed, delivered lock of the week.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Can I retroactively go back and lock up?
You want to lock it up?
I'm going to lock up Seattle over Los
You're
Angeles.
locking Seattle?
I'm locking Seattle over Los Angeles.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Now, we're still technically mid-season, so we can't change the rules now. But I feel like in the future, if you hit a lock, you should get 2 points.
2 points. Okay, we can let's revisit that for next.
Or something like that. Or you get 3, but if you lose your lock, you lose 1. Something like that. We'll come up with something real clever for the locks.
Like
Maybe we'll get a little less of them. I felt like I forced a few locks.
If you lock it and you win, you get 2. If you lock it and lose, you lose 2. So it's like a double weighted game.
Man, but you don't. Oh, I guess you do lose. I mean, because technically you lose 1, but you would get 2 losses. You just weight it.
Yeah.
Locks are heavy, James. They're heavy things.
They are. They're big.
They're gonna weigh you.
Metallic. Big.
They're going to hold you up on a pedestal, or they're going to sink you farther into the river.
Exactly. So
I like that.
We'll revisit that for next season.
Sounds great.
And then finally, it is the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers, 4.5 point home favorite, 46.5. This one Sunday night, 8:15 Eastern time on NBC. Also on Peacock if you have it. But
Peacock,
I don't understand that because like NBC is like
they have like all the sports.
It's an over-the-air channel. Like even if you don't have a cable service, you can get NBC through an antenna or online or anything like that. But
you can't stream it.
If you have Peacock but you don't have any cable, then you can watch.
Then you're able to stream it. Yeah, even on like some of the other ones, the NBC Sports apps and those things in years past. Being somebody who's had to stream many a thing, without a cable sign-in, you're not able to stream NBC Sports things, which I think is baffling.
That's just stupid because it's
CBS. I can't watch any of those games streaming because they have that stupid $5 a month like subscription.
CBS All Access or whatever. But like it doesn't make sense because like CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, they are over-the-air channels.
Right. So how they can charge for a
stream? I can literally get them without having any cable whatsoever.
Right. You just buy a TV, hook a wire up to the back of it. You got CBS.
Yeah, it's stupid. Anyway, I would have given the Browns a little bit more of a chance in this one, but given the whole COVID situation, you're not going to have Kevin Stefanski on the sideline. You're not going. You're going to be missing players. You're going to be missing assistant coaches. Lord only knows what the next couple of days might bring too with this COVID outbreak. There may be more guys missing. It's literally just the most Cleveland thing in the entire world to be in this situation. I'm going to go Steelers plus. I'm going to go under though. I don't have faith in either of these offenses right now.
All right, just to give you an idea of how mediocre the Steelers offense has been, let me just ask you 3 quick questions. And they're comparison questions. We're going to compare Ben Roethlisberger and Baker Mayfield. I'm looking at the season stats right now. Who has more passing yards?
Probably Baker.
No, you'd be wrong there. It was Ben Roethlisberger, 3,800 to almost 3,600. So by 200 yards, Ben has passed.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
I'll ask you 4 questions. Touchdowns.
Ben.
Correct. And most of that has to do with Chase Claypool, won by looks like about 7 touchdowns, 33 to 26. Interceptions. Who had less? Who's the better?
Who had less interceptions?
Yes.
Baker Mayfield.
Correct. Baker threw 8 to Ben's 10. And doing all that math real quick in your head, higher QB rating.
Baker Mayfield.
Ben Roethlisberger 94.1, Baker Mayfield 95.9. So Baker Mayfield wins QB rating. So, but just looking at those stats, I've made fun of Baker Mayfield for
neither of those good, by the way.
I've made fun of Baker Mayfield for his whole career. Guy's a hilarious actor. Those commercials are spot on.
I love those commercials.
It's the only reason I hope he stays in the league. He gets to keep making commercials, but he's going to have to win a playoff game to do it, and I think he just might this weekend. The spread, I would like it to be a little bit wider to pick Cleveland in this game. But especially the way the ball bounces for Pittsburgh in every single sport. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick Cleveland. I'm going to take Baker Mayfield. I'm going to take the Browns only because I get 6 points. I feel like there's a good chance that they're high enough coming in. First playoff game in a long time. I also think there's a good chance that Ben's still not healthy, that Connor's still not healthy, and that there's still going to be some timing issues there. And I haven't seen much from Pittsburgh's defense not being healthy. I think the Browns have a chance to keep this close. And because of that, there's a chance that they find a way to win. So I am going to, I'm going to take the Browns, and I'm going to take, I guess what I want is the under there, even though I think this one could get a little bit out of hand, 2 weak defenses. I'll take the under because it doesn't matter.
All right, then before we get to the college football and the college football playoff, Sean, I mean, week 17, if you're in a league that plays to week 17, there is plenty of fantasy irrelevance in week 17.
Yeah, basically for most people, the week 17 is irrelevant anyway. And I almost picked fantasy studs from the year that scored despite the fact that you weren't playing. Guys that like maybe hadn't scored in like 5 weeks and just ticked you off. But there are a lot of leagues that do play through 17, so we went ahead and did a real round here. And before we get into our top three, I had to give my honorable mention. I got 3 short rushes. We had a Antonio Williams with 2 touchdown runs in Buffalo. We had Adrian Peterson arrived for the last week of the season to snag a 2-yard touchdown. And one of our old friends played in South Bend. Josh Adams had himself a 1-yard run. So 3 short runs get honorable mention this week.
Welcome in there, Ryan. It's a great show.
Great show. First-time listener, Ryan Eagle. All right. Way to go.
Appreciate that, buddy.
You've literally made fun of something I said before.
Yeah. Ryan having a little fun here in Central.
Liar. You're a filthy liar. You're a phony.
Who the hell is this?
Who is this? All right. Anyway.
Way out of line. Way out of line.
This is also the first time all season that we have 3 passing touchdowns in our top 3. So here we go. Fantasy Relevant Week 17.
My.
Oh, how exciting. 3rd place comes from Kansas City. And the only reason this is 3rd place is because some people probably started these guys just because it's Kansas City. Chad Henne coming out there to throw some balls, hits Byron Pringle for a 3-yard touchdown. Yeah, I thought I think he made the chips. That's how you know Pringle. That's how you know him.
This is a little bit of an inside joke to our 3-count Thursday. Favorite pizza topping? I'm going to go. I'm actually going to go with a combo, pepperoni and onion for me. Favorite pizza topping?
Yeah, I'm going to go. I like the hybrid of the extra cheese bacon. I like that a lot. Like a bacon extra cheese. I'll dig that.
That's good. You brought it, Chad Henne. My wife is related through her stepdad to Chad Henne, by the way.
Huh. Maybe we should get you some tickets because he's not going to be playing. You can sit with him and watch the game. Anyway, 2nd place comes from our man Drew Lock. If you were starting Drew Lock in your fantasy football finals, I think he showed up in week 16 as well. But he shows up week 17, hit a 1-yard touchdown pass to Troy Fumagalli.
Who?
I don't know. I thought it was like a Yukon Denali. I had to check it twice. It turns out Fumagalli from somewhere that doesn't play football. Anyway, fantasy relevant touchdown number 2. And your winner, week 17, last regular season game, your fantasy relevant touchdown of the week is running back Jonathan Ward in Arizona. Jonathan Ward, running back, received a touchdown pass from Chris Strevler.
I have no idea who that is.
His mother doesn't know who he is, but you know what? She does now because he's your fantasy irrelevant touchdown of the week for week 17.
Who the hell is this?
That one baffled me. I saw it. I'm like, what the heck did I just
What
read?
just happened?
Those guys scored? All the stars on the Arizona. I mean, I get it that, like, you know, Kyler Murray didn't play an entire game, but, like, they have, like, 90 receivers.
Yeah.
They threw to that. Yeah, it's just baffling.
Unbelievable. Just
Get out of town.
unbelievable. All right, Sean. Let's start this college football playoff discussion with just a little bit of thoughts of what happened this past weekend. And we talked about some of these like stupid hot takes earlier. And I'm going to kick it off with the first of the games, and that was, of course, the Rose Bowl. Anybody that wants to bring in this hot take about how Notre Dame didn't belong in the playoff, because they got smoked by Alabama is absurd. Like for starters, and I'm not just trying to pat my own team on the back here. Notre Dame held Alabama to its lowest point total in like 2 years.
Yeah, like since they lost the title game.
Right.
I think.
Like
that was the last time they scored less than 35.
Like, yeah, like Alabama, like Notre Dame's defense absolutely did the job. And yes, Notre Dame's offense did
except
not
on the scoring plays. Those they looked pretty.
But we said it last week that if Notre Dame was going to even have a chance in this game, it was going to fall on the offense. And the offense, they struggled. Ian Book, unfortunately, over his last 2 games, was Ian Book.
Yeah,
and
he was
winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. He's put up stats, but like Ian Book is only ever been what he's always been, and that's the unfortunate legacy to me for Ian Book at Notre Dame is he never went above what I always assumed that he was. And in the final 2 games, in the biggest 2 games of his career, he was brilliant in that first game against Clemson. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done. But like, look at what Texas A&M had to come from behind to beat a North Carolina team that was missing a lot of its key players.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think people realize in that game. Like North Carolina is a legitimate opponent, but they were not all there.
They were not the North Carolina team that Notre Dame throttled, by the way.
Yeah, no, it was not. And Notre Dame did struggle in that game early. Like they're a good team. North Carolina's got a lot of good. It looks like this coaching staff of this program's got a bright future, but they were not all healthy for this game against A&M.
So like Notre Dame belonged there, regardless of what happened. Honest to God, like I won't lie. I stopped watching because I'm like, I don't need to. I've seen this before. I don't need to see it anymore.
Well, Notre Dame got it. I don't want to say close, but they got it competitive in the second half. There was a point where I was like, you know what? If we go down and score here, all of a sudden it's like a 1 or 1.5 score game. We're like right in this. And then, of course, it was like, 3 and out or make our own mistake. There was the deep ball interception that was a quick swing, where you were going in to score, lost those points, gave up a quick score the other way. It was unfortunate to watch. I think that, it just came down to me, the difference. And I got into a couple of spats online with folks that were doing the hype and the classic, Notre Dame gets smoked in bowls, or Notre Dame had no business being there, or they're just proof that the BCS is about money. And I'm like, really? Ohio State gets in with 6 wins, and you're telling me that Notre Dame's the reason?
Notre Dame's the reason it's about money?
The other 3 teams in there carry do they have as much in the history of college football? Maybe Alabama does, but the other 2 are like this riding this money train that Ohio State and Clemson do.
The Big Ten had to change their rules, basically to get Ohio State into this game.
Even give them a shot. Big Ten had to change their rules.
Notre Dame's the only money line in this.
The Big Ten changed their rules because of money. College football broke probably, arguably one of their rules because of money. If not having a conference title game means that you didn't play enough games, then not playing enough games should mean that you didn't play enough games.
Precisely.
But that's a whole separate point. But I got into these spats, and in every single one of them, it was, they're never could compete and blah, blah, blah. And I just kept repeating the same, like, well, who are you putting it? Because I wanted to know who I'm arguing against.
Right.
And 3 of the 4 wouldn't even name a team. Like, they were like, well, maybe A&M or maybe so. I'm like, A&M? You're going to put A&M into play Alabama?
Team that got more than doubled up by Alabama?
In their only real contested game of the year.
Right.
They didn't put up a good showing. I'm like, so you can't argue that. And I finally got one to tell me that Georgia, based on strength of schedule.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Like Georgia, and I saw a list. Georgia, on paper, played like the 3rd or 4th hardest schedule in the country. And I looked them in the face. I'm like, well, yeah, they did. And the 2 hardest pieces of that, they lost to.
They got their asses kicked.
Whereas Notre Dame, who, by the way, on both of those lists came in 7th. It's not like they were in like
right. They weren't like 90th on that.
Notre Dame had a tough. I'm like, The difference is Notre Dame has, first of all, one less loss, and second of all, beat a top 5 team. So, like,
the number 1 team in the country
at the time. Yeah, but I mean, just at the end of the season, you're like top 5 team, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think Notre Dame. The proof in the pudding is that what I'm trying to tell you is anybody that came at me personally didn't have an argument. I think there's more arguments, and there's more arguments for teams over Ohio State. Now, did Ohio State come in and prove like, hey, you know what, like, you know, F you guys, look what we did. Yeah, they did. Like, and based on that was never an issue. I was never questioning Ohio State's talent level and ability to play with these other teams. It was just
we'll talk about them.
We'll talk about them in a minute. As far as Notre Dame goes, the track record was there. It's just unfortunately for Notre Dame, and I don't know if it's still an academic issue. I don't know if it's still something else. Notre Dame is continuing, and the reason they keep showing up is because they're continuing year after year or every other year, showing that they are better than the other teams vying for that 4th or 3rd playoff spot. But there is still an enormous gap between that 4th or 5th spot in the country and 1 and 2.
Yes. Yeah.
There is an insurmountable right now.
3 Power 5 teams that went undefeated this year. Alabama went 11-0. Notre Dame went 10-0. Ohio State went 6-0. That's it. Like, how do you not put them in? It's not about
title games aside.
It's about and again, the team that one of the teams that they beat along the way was a top 15 North Carolina team. One of those teams they beat along the way was at the time number 1 in the country, Clemson. The resume is stronger than anybody else behind them. It's better than Texas A&M's. It was better than Oklahoma's.
I think it's better than Ohio State's.
The resume absolutely is better than Ohio State's. Ohio State, and I'm not faulting Ohio State for only playing 6 games. I'm not. So we'll transition to that because I've said all along that I thought Ohio State was one of the best 4 teams in the country. My issue with Ohio State was number of games, not their fault. And they proved this weekend, obviously, in the Sugar Bowl, that they belonged in this top 4. I never questioned their resume. So there's a lot of Ohio State fans out there, and I know a lot of more of it is shots at, and don't get me wrong, I loved Dabo Swinney be made to look like an absolute moron. I mean, that guy is the most pretentious prick.
It's insane.
He is the absolute worst. Like, I hate Nick Saban because he's that good. I hate Dabo Swinney because he's an
Nick
asshole.
Saban is the New York Yankees.
Right.
Like, Nick Saban is the God, fucking stop winning games.
Stop being good.
Right. Whereas Dabo Sweeney's that guy that's like, yeah, my dad can be your dad. Like, shut up. Like, there's no way to find the answer to this.
I saw a great tweet. It said, remember how Alabama spent 2 weeks just trying to delegitimize Notre Dame? No. Nick Saban spent 2 weeks figuring out how to kick Notre Dame's ass.
Right.
Dabo Swinney spent 2 weeks talking about how great they were and how Ohio State didn't belong there. And which,
by the way, if you're doing that leading up to the rankings, if you were Ohio State trying to sell yourself to get in, maybe. Once the top 4 is there, who are you selling yourself to?
Right. Like, why are you justifying the fact
just setting yourself up for embarrassment? Like, you know what I'd like to do? I'd just like to hand the other team locker room material. Because in college, locker room material works a lot better than the NFL.
Exactly. Because, and because when you're Dabo Swinney, you're telling your kids in your locker room that you are infinitely better than the team you're playing against.
You don't even have to try.
Right. You have already put yourself basically in the college football playoff national title game. Where in Columbus, they're going, we're going to kick this team.
You're wait a damn minute.
And they absolutely, there was a quarter in that game where Ohio State outscored Clemson 21-0.
Yeah. And I don't think Fields, don't get me wrong, I don't think Fields did enough to usurp from an NFL draft perspective.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But what he did was got himself into the conversation for pick number 2.
The New York Jets, absolutely.
Which is hilarious. Which, by the way, when you look at the last 3 quarterbacks drafted out of Ohio State, not a very strong record.
Yikes.
It is not great. they are guys that come in with a lot of promise, a lot of hype, and then
got released 2 weeks ago.
just got released. Another one lost his job when the XFL folded. It hasn't been the strongest run as far as your Heisman candidate.
I don't think Fields is going to be that great in the NFL.
And he might not be, but wouldn't it be fitting?
In college, but he was this week.
But the most New York Jets thing in the world would not be simply winning and losing your pick at Trevor Lawrence. It would be getting locked into the proverbial second pick, only to have the first quarterback turn out phenomenal and your quarterback turn out like Sam Darnold.
Right. But like I said, Ohio State belonged there. They proved it. It was never a question of are they good enough. It was a question of resume.
It was a question in a sport where resumes have proven it have been the
argument. I'm more mad at this point that Notre Dame ended up 4 because I thought their resume was stronger. Because
and I wanted Clemson.
What Clemson was this past week, and maybe Clemson prepares different if they're playing Notre Dame again. But you put Notre Dame against that Clemson team that showed up this week, and Notre Dame might be in the national championship game.
Could be only to get murdered.
Only get beat by either Ohio State or Alabama. Right. So let's talk about that game, Sean. Against the spread this last week, I went 2-4, 35-29 overall. You went 4-2, 40-24 overall. So regardless of what happens in this one, you are going to win the college football season. But Monday night, 8:00 on the ESPN networks. Again, they have all that bonus coverage, crazy channels. Let's give you. I'll give you a little bit. Let me. Where is it? Let me.
We did it!
But ESPN Family Networks, that ESPN is the main channel. Then of course you have all that extra stuff like ESPN2, ESPNU, all of that stuff. Number 3, Ohio State.
Is there going to be a Dabo Sweeney cam of him watching the game from home? Because I'll probably watch that.
Fucking hope. I'd actually pay money for that.
I would pay pay-per-view.
I'd pay money. Quite frankly, I can't afford it at this point, but I would pay it.
Pay it just to watch him cry and complain and make excuses the entire 3 hours. It'd be amazing.
Of course, with no mask on either. Number 3, Ohio State, 7-0. They are playing, of course, number 1 Alabama, 12-0. A 7-point favorite is the Crimson Tide. 75 is your over/under mark in the college football playoff national championship.
Defense.
God, that number is just absurd. I think Ohio State's going to cover the 7. I don't think this is going to be a blowout either way. Obviously, I'm going with the over. I think it is just going to be an offensive showcase as it has been. It may come down to who has the ball last. But it feels weird to even say this, but is Ryan Day a better coach for this Ohio State team than Urban Meyer was? And it feels really odd to say that because Urban Meyer was really good. But for some reason, maybe it's just this year and the stars aligned and Ohio State, they were one of the teams and the people that really pushed to get this season on the field. I don't know. But Ryan Day, as much as I don't like the guy, I think he's kind of a prick too. But he has his team behind him. And so do I think Ohio State can win this game? I absolutely do. I'm tired of either of these teams being near the top. I will not be watching this game, or at least not much of it. I'll be watching Monday Night Raw. I'm going to Ohio State to cover, and I'm taking the over.
By the way, ironically, we talked the whole season about how we didn't blame Ohio State. It wasn't, they weren't getting canceled because of their own. They have so many COVID-19 cases right now. This game is being considered being delayed an entire week because of Ohio State currently being just mauled with. They're looking at a previously established January 18th makeup date as an opportunity to play the game because they have too many COVID cases. I say let them play.
I think Nick Saban's daughter had tweeted that Ohio State was just afraid to play them.
Well, that was stupid.
Right. Like,
All right.
didn't you learn
I'm
from Dabo
either
not
way.
to poke the bear?
Either way, this weekend, next weekend, I am Bama, Bama, Bama. I am Roll Tide. I think this has all the makings of the last time that we got beat by Clemson, and everybody thought we didn't belong. Notre Dame didn't belong there, and Clemson went to play Alabama and steamrolled Alabama. And I feel like Ohio State had to do something to prove they belong there. I feel like they've already done it. I don't think they're going to sit back and chill out and just let Alabama roll all over them, but there's only so much you can do. I think Alabama's a more complete team top to bottom. I think they have a better overall offense. They have the Heisman Trophy winner just announced a few hours ago. Devontae Smith, wide receiver, wins the quarterbacks award of the Heisman Trophy.
First wide receiver since Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard in 1991. Good call there. But good for him. I'm excited to see a position other than quarterback.
Non-quarterback since Derrick Henry 5 years ago.
Yeah, who is one of only. Can you believe that Alabama has 3 Heisman Trophy winners? I think it's only 3.
Ever? No.
Let's see. He joins Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry as the only Alabama players to win the Heisman Trophy in the program's history. So you mean to tell me no one before
even the Bear Bryant era, nobody won a Heisman for Alabama?
What's amazing is both of their previous winners still play in the NFL.
Jesus.
One runs at a high level, the other one watches his teammates run at a high level. But either way, good for him, good for Alabama. I like Alabama to cover that point, cover the 7 points. I think it's got to go over, right? I mean, this has shootout written all over it. However, I'm going to take the under. I feel like this is a trap. I feel like it's a trap. I feel like Alabama's going to play enough defense. I think Ohio State's going to come out sluggish, whether they don't have enough players to play or whether those players
question
have
the health of Justin Fields. I don't know what internal damage got done on that hit, which, by the way, should not have been targeting.
Do you think that hit caused him to have a COVID case?
Possibly. Like he's
that's one thing that would annoy the crap out of me is if years down the line we find out that the COVID cases were really just we need Fields
on this team is going to be fantastic.
We need Fields to be on the field. No, I think from what I saw, Alabama's defense and I just don't know. Alabama's offense I'm not saying Ohio State has no weapons, but Alabama's offense has NFL caliber players at every possible
Heisman Trophy finalists, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, 3 of them. And any one of them could catch a ball at any given time.
It's unbelievable.
So
you got Bama.
I got Bama. Roll Tide. Roll Tide, roll Tide, roll Tide. I like this the whole way through. The one thing that does scare me is much like Sweeney he didn't have Ohio State at 11th, but Nick Saban's poll did have Ohio State out of the top 4. Just throwing that out there. His coach's poll, final coach's poll vote, did not have Ohio State in the top 4, so he also feels Ohio State doesn't belong. I don't know if that affects the second game as much as the first one, but
probably not. All right, Sean. Finally, let's close up here, and this is something that the NHL season starts next week, but it's been popping up for the first time ever. The NHL teams have sold corporate sponsors for helmet stickers instead of team logos on the helmets. And then just today, the NHL announced that it has sold naming rights for its 4 divisions for the first time in history. Its teams will play in the Scotia NHL North Division, the Honda NHL West Division, the Discover NHL Central Division, and the Mass Mutual NHL East Division during the 2021 season, which runs 56 games, begins, of course, next Wednesday night. An NHL source told ESPN that the selling of the naming rights to division is viewed internally as a 1-year only campaign. A lot of NHL fans are afraid that this will become a common theme. The NHL, like I know the Capitals have the Capital One is the helmet sponsor for the year. The Penguins are PPG. Look, the fear for NHL teams, and I can understand the fear to a degree. if you look at European hockey, their uniforms are literally a skating billboard. Their ice is covered in ads. But here's the thing. What people fail to realize is those leagues wouldn't, and those teams would not survive
without corporate sponsors. Yes.
Without all of that sponsorship. The NHL will survive. However, last year they had a COVID shortened season. This year they're having a COVID shortened season. And the biggest difference with the NHL versus all these other leagues, the NHL operates at a game per game basis at a higher cost than any other of the major four sports.
Oh, sure.
And they also operate at a less revenue of the other major four sports because there's less money from sponsorship. There's less money from like tickets and TV revenue because it is the least watched of the big four. So the last season and this season are hitting the NHL harder than any other of the major four sports. So selling a logo on a helmet, which is barely noticeable, by the way.
Correct.
Like Capitals, now some will be different than others because like the Penguins, the PPG logo is blue. So that will stand out a little bit more on a Penguins white or black helmet than the Capital One logo, which is white and red on a Capitals helmet. But like, I saw a great tweet from a Hershey Bears writer. And a couple of years ago, the Hershey Bears started wearing, I think it was the PA Blue Cross logo on their helmet, which had already been on their jersey. But he goes, I dare any of you to tell me what year they started wearing the Blue Cross logo on their helmet and when they started wearing it on their jerseys. And nobody had a response. Because it is that small. And if it's one, you're barely going to notice it. And to me, I look at it like this. Am I getting a hockey season this year? Yes. So by all means, put a logo on the helmet. Put a logo on, on the damn division. What the hell does it matter if
it's Umbro across their ass? I really don't care.
I don't care. Like, do I want the NHL to become like the European leagues? No. And it's never going to happen. It just
look at the bright side. None of your teams got sponsored by Victoria's Secret. Nobody has to wear Juicy across the back of their uniform. It's fine. Look, I say well done to the NHL.
Exactly.
Because, like you said, the shortened seasons, everything else, lack of revenue, not to mention the overhead. Like, I mean, these rosters aren't small. I know there's like people look at the number of guys on an ice.
They're going to do 2 outdoor games in Tahoe. You think those are going to happen on the cheap? Absolutely not.
Now, Tahoe in February is colder than people think. Like they hear Nevada,
sure.
they think desert. It's not in the desert. It's in a mountain. It should be fairly cold at the time. But either way, I say props to him. I mean, this is like you said, it's a league that struggled with revenue historically anyway, even before any of this happened. So to not have fans in the stands is excruciating for them. I would like to see, I think you're going to see some kind of bubble at the end of this, but it's one of the reasons for a shortened season is just, unless you're going to limit the number of ice surfaces they have to be responsible for, it becomes very costly. And so, I just, I don't really see, people talk about the number one sport in the world is international soccer. And when you look at a team, I remember growing up and being like, oh, Manchester United, or like, well, and then you see their uniforms and it's like United Emirates, and you're like, what is that their team name? Does it affect anyone from watching soccer?
No.
When that sponsor changes and their uniforms change colors, do people stop following the team? No. Because they love the sport, they love their team, they love their city, and they're not going anywhere. And your hardcore hockey fans are going to complain out their ass about this all they want. The NBA dealt with it a few years ago.
Right, they have a sponsor.
NBA maybe in a few years is going to be it's the one sport that has a chance to challenge the NFL as the cash cow in American sports.
Right,
and they're selling themselves.
Yeah, they have StubHub on the Sixers uniforms. I think.
Yeah, every. If some companies like we'll give you $4 billion to put our logo on every team's jersey, the NBA would be like, yep.
And here's the thing too that people that hockey fans are failing to realize is the salary caps are based on revenue.
Yes.
So, like,
which is what I alluded to during the Eagles conversation earlier. The NFL
here as a Washington Capitals fan, knowing this is the last year that Alex Ovechkin is under contract with the Washington Capitals. Now, do I think Ovechkin's going to go play somewhere else? I do not. However,
Probably not.
you have a lot of talent on that team, and you have TJ Oshie under contract. You have Nicholas Backstrom. You have John Carlson. There, you have Tom Wilson. You have a lot of big money contracts on that team. So if you want to make sure Alex Ovechkin does re-sign and only plays his NHL career in Washington, you better make sure you have some revenue to play around with. So by all means, sell what you need to sell. Make sure Ovi stays in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, selling, ice space, whatever else, like the league already has way more ice surface covered with advertisements. We also live in an era where you can put digital advertisements over the
they do it all the time.
Do it all the time.
They're behind the net. Some of the board ads are
and I'll tell you what, if it came down to the league being like, I don't know if we can continue another 5 years, or like, let's cover the entire surface in a Spectrum logo, or like the NBC, like whatever. Sure, do what you got to do. Just keep my sport playing.
I want hockey.
As far as naming the divisions, like who cares about that? Like maybe you got to put their logo on your ice somewhere.
You know what I'm not going to do is, like, hypothetically the Washington Capitals win the Stanley Cup this year. Am I going to give a flying shit if the Capitals season was the Mass Mutual East Division or not? I couldn't care less.
For the Mass Mutual Eastern Division champions. Great. Awesome.
If the Capitals don't win the Stanley Cup, am I going to care that they didn't win the Mass Mutual East Division?
Well, absolutely not. It's not like they renamed the Stanley Cup. Like,
right, exactly.
Like we sell the naming rights. Yeah, it turns out Stanley hasn't paid his bill in a while. We're gonna
here's the thing.
We're gonna rename it the Capital One Cup.
When you go to the Hockey Hall of Fame, the backdrop for the Stanley Cup that you take a picture with has the SO logo on it.
Yep.
Which is a gas station in Canada. So even there, when you're taking the picture with the greatest trophy in sports, it says like SO Stanley Cup. Like, it happens. Like, it's okay. It's going to be okay, hockey fans. It's going to be okay.
Sports are here to entertain us, but sports are also here to make a few people a lot of money and a lot of people a little money. But it costs a lot to put these sports on. Teams got to do what they have to do. Leagues have to do what they have to. I have no problem with it.
I'm gonna tell people this right now, and they may not want to hear it. The Rams' new uniforms have a Los Angeles patch right here. That's going to be a corporate ad in a couple of years. That's the first one. Like, that's the first time I've ever seen a patch like that. Guess what? It's setting you up for in a couple of years.
It's testing whether anyone notices the
right.
Patch.
The Dallas Cowboys practice uniforms have the AT&T logo on it. It's coming. The Ravens, I forget what theirs, like all the practice jerseys have them.
Well, Dallas could like pull it out, they sell, like they just get Texaco and just put a star right there.
Yeah, exactly. But guess what? It's coming to the NFL. It's probably going to come to baseball.
Texicans. The Texaco sponsored Texicans.
All right, Sean, we're going to wrap this one up this week. Let people know where they can follow you.
Yeah. Check me out at Sean Shine State. That's SHAWN. Sean Shine State. I did share the meme /stat about the Andy Reid. If you want to go check that out, let me know if you did any research that I couldn't find to prove it right or wrong. And always follow us. We can still talk about fantasy irrelevant touchdowns through the playoffs, even though fantasy's not going on. But hey, you enjoy sports from wherever you're watching. I'll enjoy it down here from Tampa Bay, whether the Bucks win or lose. Enjoy your hockey. We'll see you next week.
All right, yeah, we will talk to you next week where we will preview the NHL season and much more. And make sure you're following me at Big Jim Sports, but follow the show. Subscribe to us all podcast platforms, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, Stitcher, and all of that. Check out our home network, NGSC Sports, at ngscsports.com. Follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at Huddle Up Podcast, on Instagram at Huddle Up Pod, and you'll hear from the sponsor, Arena Eats. Until next week, folks, stay safe, stay smart, and go for the win. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?